Welcome to God's Way, YTVY. I'm Adolphina Shephard, and this is my co-host Thomas Knight's Templar.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Well, folks, as usual, we have a fabulous show lined up for you. And we have a couple of fabulous guests as well. We are going to be talking about who and what is God in a roundtable discussion. Because you know what? This is the mystery of the ages and the question of the ages. So we're going to toss it around a bit. So let me introduce our first guest. And you may recognize her from before, Mary Silvernail. So Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself for those who haven't seen you.
From before, she's here every week.
Yeah, well, that's true. She has been here a lot lately, but that's good. She needs to be.
Thank you for inviting me to the show tonight. Thank you, Tommy, and thank you, Adolphina, especially for this topic. It's absolutely wonderful. But I'm Mary Silvernail, and I'm the host of Astrology, Angels, and More, and on CTV. And also, I'm an astrologer and a board-certified clinical hypnotist and a Native American healer, etc. So...
And she is our resident astrologer for the forecast in the new year, which she will be doing for us in January. So make sure you don't miss that show because it's going to tell us what's happening this year.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I can't. Are you going to do charts?
Yes,
like you usually do?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All the interesting ones, too.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
So now we have another guest, Linda Hunter, here, and she's very personable and lovely. So, Linda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Linda Hunter, and I would say that I am a spiritual enthusiast and that I've been on a spiritual path that I can remember my entire life. But it's changed, and I really enjoy this format, so thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Well, you know, when you're on a spiritual path for so many years, of course we have to grow and evolve, right?
Right.
You should.
Yes.
Well, you should, right? Well, you know, in the last episode, we talked about the science of the I Am presence. And we'll be discussing who and what we think God is. And everybody may have a different opinion because we didn't talk about what we were each going to say. So this should be an interesting conversation, right?
Yeah, very
And
interesting.
So you're going to ask me who God is?
Yeah.
Don't you know?
I know.
Well, I know.
You think everybody knows?
Oh, good.
That's why we're here.
I know. That's exactly why we're here, because I was surprised last week. I had 2 or 3 people tell me they did not know who the I Am was. And I thought everybody knew, you know?
That's because we spoke about this, that a lot of Christians haven't read the Bible. They heard excerpts of it, or somebody read something to them, but they never sat there and read it themselves and never learned about the part where Moses goes up on the holy mountain and he winds up finding the burning bush, okay? And God tells him to take off his sandals. You're standing on holy ground, all right? And then when he told Moses to go to Pharaoh and have him release his people, okay, he says, who should I say sent me? All right, so he says, tell them I am that I am. And that's been the name of God since that day to mankind. They don't know that. Then what are you in church for?
I know. And you know what? I actually know some very religious people who go every week faithfully to church and so forth. And I asked them, have you ever read the Bible? And surprisingly, the answer was no. I mean, you know, basically, if you just listen to someone else's interpretation, you really have to read it yourself to take your own interpretation. I read it several times, and I could still read it again, and I'm sure learn more.
Yeah, I've heard. I leave it to the priest to tell me what. What? You leave it to the priest? What about your own interpretation of who God is, your personal relationship? Please.
Right.
And many times you can go back and read a passage in the Bible and it'll mean something entirely different to you at that moment.
Yeah, because it's a different level. It's a different level.
Exactly.
Because you know what? God is multidimensional, and God is universal. And people just have this little image of God as just as this image that Michelangelo painted, right? but much more than that. You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
you're reading the Bible, you're getting it in different levels.
And I think also that it is written in like an Old English language, and the rhythm of it is different than what we understand today, and that a lot of people don't understand it because of the way that it was written.
Well, it's
I
written
know that
in Gothic. It's
studying,
Gothic English.
Course in Miracles, the language is very flowery, and like when you read different spiritual material, it has a language of its own, and I feel that the Bible is that way too. So the interpretation would be different for everyone, because we were not born back then when these books came out, when the Bible came out. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, with not really understanding the languaging of that day.
Well, you're right. I agree with that. And you know, even if it was in the language of this day, I don't think it's easy reading if you really want to understand what's being said.
Because
you
we
know?
don't speak like that anymore. And that's the first thing. Second thing, that book was written, whether it was transcribed into Gothic English, okay, or it was Greek, or taken from the Greek text, and you lose something in translation.
Yeah, and it's been translated several
It's been
times.
translated 1,700 times over the years, and each time it has been, the sect that did it, right, convoluted it by putting in their own conjecture.
Right.
All right, and that's why, and not to mention how many books are missing out of the Bible.
Right.
That it was streamlined to fit a certain dogma, to
Right,
keep
for
control
control.
over the masses.
Of
That's
the-
what it is.
The church and the state.
That's
Yes.
right.
What was it?
That's
King
right.
James, I think,
That
right?
no, that was the.
No, Nicene Creed.
That was the what did they call that? Something of Nicene.
Yeah, the Nicene
it's
Creed.
the Council
yeah.
of Nicene,
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where all of this was devised. all
Right.
And if by today's standards, it would be called deception. Because that's what it is. It's the old flim flam.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, even like today, even with the news, they only tell you and skew it the way they want you to believe it, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. But, you know, right now, we are in a critical point of awareness of what, because things are changing so very rapidly. I mean, we need to, where do we need to focus it? And the reason being is because the ascension is on, it's like an elevator all of a sudden, zoom. And I don't know if you caught the show where I had announced that the Cosmic Christ has been born a little ways back. And what that has happened to every single person that I checked is there is a trinity of diamonds growing in our chakras. Now, everybody's different based on the level of their awareness and their closeness to God and so forth.
You might want to elaborate on that a little bit.
As far as, well, the diamond is just the shape of a diamond, but the gold light of the Christ consciousness is coming through to each and every one of us in that sacred geometry. And so, but I think everybody knows what chakras are, right?
Chakras are one thing, but having, I know, she knows it, she knows
Yeah.
it, but not everybody knows that.
Right,
Because
okay.
the level of, I'm just saying, speak to them on something that.
Right. Well, do well, all right. Do you have a better way you want to add to that or say to something? Because I don't know another way to say it.
The only way to say it is that we are in a time of awakening, all right? And many people who have been just going through life every single day, go to work, get up in the morning, do what they got to do, take the kids to school, blah, 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 the PTA, all this stuff, right? It's just stuff that wastes your time. It's not just waste your time. You're actually doing stuff in service to your family. However, it is not what your life is supposed to be about. Your life is supposed to be in service to your fellow man, in service to God, okay? And when you have that direct connection, okay, to God, okay, everything makes sense, everything falls in a row. When you're just going to think that you're going to get up on a Sunday, go to church, or Saturday, go to wherever you go, okay, and that's going to make you holy for the week, you don't have that personal relationship with God.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't understand the term Christ consciousness.
Okay, well, people know that that it's been said that Christ will come again, the Messiah will come again. the Christ consciousness is where we're all going to develop that type of personage, because each and every one of us was patterned after the perfection of Jesus. Okay, so as we grow and develop our consciousness, that's what it's called in metaphysical circles, is your Christ consciousness, and also in church language. But now, in addition to this occurring, what it's doing is, well, I want to add one more thing. The Father God has passed away the three lowest forms of dimensions, the first, second, and the third, which means they are the low frequency dimensions. So that light that's coming into us is starting to rise and rise. And because of it, a lot of people are feeling fuzzy, unfocused, not remembering what they have to do or where they got to go, and fatigued, and not really knowing what's going on. They're thinking, you know, I got to go to the doctors, I'm sick or something. And some people are sick. You know, they've been feeling ill. And one of the things that's important to know is to make sure that you're grounding each and every morning, because this will help you feel better, for starters. And the easiest way I found it, I think everybody has a different way of grounding, but the easiest way I found it is to simply say, I'm in my body and fully grounded. I'm in my body and fully grounded a couple of times. And then you can either ask Jesus or God or your guardian angel to stake you where you belong, to keep you stable. Because the light is kind of, the rising frequency is kind of pushing people up and a little bit out of their body. Like, I check on people where their soul feet are in their body, and sometimes they're up to here. Well, no wonder they're having a tough time functioning, you know? So it's important to ground every day, right?
I think it's important also to be out in nature, you know, either walking on the grass or being near tree energy where
Yeah.
the roots are already in the ground, and that we absorb that energy. And that's one of the things that I like to do for grounding, either walk
On the grass,
on
barefoot,
the grass
or on
or
the concrete.
hug a
what-
tree.
Yeah, hug a tree. Sounds funny, but
Yeah,
But it's the
you know,
truth.
it's the
tree
truth.
huggers do have they do have a purpose.
You know, I have actually asked when I'm feeling really high vibration and I need to come down a little bit, is I've actually asked my trees to charge me with earth energy. And, you know, it's like I'm talking to the tree, and suddenly this grounding energy just starts filling my body, and it makes me feel better.
Because you're calling upon it and you recognize it.
Right.
Somebody goes and talks to a tree who's just regular everyday, or you know, whatever, and says, "Okay, tree, energize me." They're gonna look at the tree like, "Okay," and the neighbors are gonna be calling 911. There's a nut outside. He's hugging the tree.
You
to
don't
a
even
tree.
need to say it out loud. The tree hears you, because that's how they communicate, you know, by telepathy, right?
By vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've come up with a few
I
questions.
like it at the beach. That's why.
You like? Oh, I
that's
like the
why-
beach
that's
too.
why I
Oh
go.
my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, the
Especially
beach.
barefoot on the beach.
I have not had to
Fun in
gotten to
the
the
snow.
beach at all this year.
Well, have to come down.
Yeah, I have
Gee,
not
you have
once.
such great color this year too.
Well, I do have a yard I sit out in, get a little color.
On just the nose, right? Anyway,
On just the
on
news.
just the nose.
Okay, so
what else you got written in there?
Well, I drew up a few questions that can start our conversation about God. And I guess the first one we've already answered, like, are you aware of God? Right? I think everybody here is, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely I'm aware of God. Definitely. I live my life.
We talk every
Very
day,
aware.
1,000 times a day. You don't think I know who God
It's
is?
for the people, for our audience. How about you, Lenny?
Right. I know that when I was growing up, my awareness of God is different than it is today, but I was brought to church. I was made to go to church. So my ideas have changed, but I was always aware of God in my life, and I'm very grateful for that.
My understanding of God from the time I was a little girl, it was a combination of going to church, and also at home, it was I come from a very spiritual family, a very metaphysical family, yet I'm Catholic. So it was the combination of both. So, yeah, so it isn't like anything ever changed for me over the years. It all just stayed the same.
Because it always something that you were used to. You know,
Yeah,
'cause most
I just grew up that way.
Most people don't raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic too.
Yeah,
Then I became a born again Christian.
yep.
You know, it's not that I fell out of out of faith with that.
Right.
But I know one thing: when I prayed then, nothing happened as a Catholic. One or two things good happened as a Christian, but as a metaphysician, a hell of a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Because you have a better
Because you have
understanding of what
you
you're
just
doing.
have that direct connection.
Yeah, because you know what you're.
You know how to
yeah.
manifest. You know, and that's the difference. You know.
Isn't that really the key?
This I was at recently. I was a Christian. I don't know what it was. Something with the kids, right? And something the priest said just sticks in my head because this goes back to growing the family of the church. All right, raise them in faith and this, that, the other, and have them receive the sacraments and all this. That's fine, okay? But it came across as not the real reason you're saying that. It came across as bring them to us, raise them this, okay, so we have new people who will eventually be doing this.
Tithing.
And I'm telling you, it came across so hypocritical, and it was such a conviction. And that goes for all of those faiths. Like
Yeah,
that.
not just the
No, that's
Catholic.
not one.
Yeah.
That's all of them.
It's,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's keeping the flock under control,
absolutely.
okay? And that's what it is. They don't want you to be a free thinker.
No, it's the
They don't
almighty
want you to think
dollar.
out of the box.
Right.
It's the almighty dollar, is right.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Well, you know, Tommy, let's go back to the
Unfortunately.
beginning of what you first said, how the prayer in the beginning didn't work for you. But you know what? What's different now is you've learned universal law.
Well,
And how to pray.
And how to pray, because our word, doesn't it say in the Bible, our word creates, the word
by your
created
word
all?
you create.
Right? And so people don't know when they're misspeaking, especially using God's name, I am, that they are creating that, you know,
And,
right?
and you know what it is?
Over and
you,
over
you
and
say
over.
You say the words I am. I am it's already been noted by science that when you say those words, something triggers in your brain. Okay? That is God calling. That's your antenna to God. Okay? When you call in the I am. People every single day don't realize how many times they say I am with something negative.
Right.
I am sick. I am this. I am nauseous. I am. Whenever you say that, you claim that with the I am name. Okay, that's like telling God, I want to be sick. I like being sick. Okay, I want to have this or I don't want to have that, but you're going to get it anyway because you're saying I am with a negative connotation at the end.
Right, wrong use of words, and it's hard to retrain your brain and
Very
your
hard.
whole thought and word pattern when you grew up with listening to people do this. I mean, some people think
You're
that a
right.
social interaction is to sit there and complain about everything
Well, that's the whole
wrong.
thing. You meet somebody, you say, he goes,
True.
hey, how you doing, Chris?
How you doing?
Oh, geez, you don't know what happened to me the other day. This, that, the other. I am so sick and tired. If I didn't have bad luck, I had no luck. Well, guess what? You just signed on for more of the same. Yet your mind is 3 different levels. You got your superconscious mind. That's your God line. That's your direct connection to God. You got the power plant, which is the subconscious mind. That is the creator. That will give you whatever you ask for, negative or positive. By your words, you create.
Right. Even your thoughts, not
All right.
just
Even,
the words
well,
that you
your thoughts are
speak.
going to do the
Right.
same thing because you're actually saying it in your head.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? So, and then there's the conscious mind. That's the one you go through the mind of the 5 senses, of all the emotions, envy, jealousy, this, that. Get rid of that garbage. They want you to be in that, so that you feel that you have no other choice but to have to go and beg to have all these things changed for you without knowing how.
You know, the Native Americans say God is Father Sky and Mother Earth, right? Now, and everybody thinks of God in a different way, but I know that that struck me because I believe that God is everything. Everybody, our minds are God, our bodies are God, this room is God, the earth is God, the animals are God. That means that everybody, including you, are a piece of God. Now, in the last show, when we talked about the science of the I am, I mentioned how God, and my first analogy was always God gave us a drop of the ocean of his body. If he's the ocean, he gave us a drop of that ocean as our soul.
Right.
Other people describe it as the divine spark.
It is the spark. It is the spark of God. That's the spark in you, the essence. Turn that essence into an ember, turn that ember into a flame,
Right.
and connect to God, fully ignited as his son, his daughter. Do not sit back and say, that can't be possible. What do you got to lose?
Well, you know what Jesus said, and don't you know ye are all gods?
That's right, he did.
And there's another thing, too, people don't know. I've been doing a lot of research, and one of the things that is really amazing is that when God gave us that drop or that divine spark or that flame, you've heard about the sacred fire. You can grow it into the sacred fire. But one of the things that, that is really key is that this sacred fire grows and grows and grows. And then, I mean, why do you think people say, you know, we're the body of the holy temple of God? Why do you think all through the ages people have said, you know, go within to know higher truth, right? Go within. Well, why? Because we're part of God. But God also said, and here's something that really is mind-blowing to me, because God said, okay, I've given you 50% of my same type of body now. You go and perfect yourself and grow to meet me. You see what I mean? And so that ties right in with with what Jesus said. You're all gods. Don't you know you're all gods?
Jesus told his disciples more than one time. It's in the Bible, several different spots. It says, didn't I tell you, you are all God, and far greater things that I do, you shall do. Okay? He told them to go out into the world and to spread the good news of his Father's kingdom. Now, they knew exactly how Jesus would do his Seder on a Saturday, you know, having his leavened bread and wine and things like that, and he did the first communion with his disciples. But when they went out into the world to spread the good news of the God, all right, they subverted the word.
Yes.
They changed all of that. They made all of this ritualistic stuff, and it's become what it's become now, the Holy Roman Empire all over again. All right? And that's what it's become. It's grown into this monster. All right? People don't free think anymore.
They don't.
Because if you free think, guess what? You realize you don't need them, you need him.
Right. And because of the ascension process, this is why it's so key right now, because unbeknownst to most people, every single soul that has incarnated in this life, their primary purpose is to reach their ascension, because ascension is nothing more than working your way home to God. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I didn't give much thought to these things. But, you know, we're supposed to become spiritual and mature and grow in maturity. You know what I mean? And
Well, we weren't taught that. We weren't taught that. We were taught to obey God, but not to be God. You know, so along the way, we had to learn that who we really, truly were in God.
Yeah.
And that God was in us.
Yes.
And what happens is when you have a spiritual awakening, which happens many, many times, and when that happens, it just becomes like so overwhelming. Something triggers inside of you. And I'm sure everyone sitting at this table here right now understands exactly what I'm talking about when that happened. in your lives.
Oh,
I
God,
think
yeah.
they call it
Yeah.
an epiphany.
That's
Yeah,
what
it's a-
happens.
or- yeah, the
when
light-
you
the light bulb
open.
moment.
It's to me, it's equated to like that you open a window and you see through that window and you see something that you had never seen before.
Because once
and
you were blind,
can't-
but now
you
you
can
see.
see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy.
All right.
And then you
Perfect.
can never close that window again because
once you
you've
learn.
seen it.
Right.
And that's
You
it.
can't
And
go
then
back.
the thirst
Can't.
begins. I've seen so many people that are, clients of mine that come to me that have such a thirst for understanding because that's exactly what happens. They open their eyes, they see, and then that's it.
The seeker
Okay.
of truth will find it. The seeker of truth will find it. Now, we were talking
become
about
a-
the
it becomes
I
a
am,
thirst.
right?
Right.
The I am. Now, this is how when group prayer or meditation works. When you get a group of people praying for, let's say, peace, or for the health of a loved one who maybe had a car accident or is ill or something, and suddenly the person doesn't know they're being prayed for, but they improve. Or suddenly there's this huge hurricane that's going to smash everything, and people all over the world are praying in group meditation and prayer, and suddenly the hurricane peters out and goes, it's because they all claim
How
their
did it go?
I am presence.
I'm sorry. How did it
You
go?
like that?
No, how did it go?
I'm not going to do it
I
again.
can't repeat that sound.
But
It made it sound like a little motorboat going out to sea.
Moment. That was in the
that was in the moment.
She was in spirit. Yes, she was. She was in spirit.
So it
Is that spirit from a bottle? I mean, where'd that come from?
you're going to make me feel really silly. You're going to be laughing. But you got the point, right?
Yes.
Use the right words in universal truth, and miracles happen. Wait a minute. Jesus said something about a mustard seed. He said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed,
yeah.
you can move mountains, especially when two of you are together,
Well,
right?
he said,
right.
he goes, if there is a mountain before you, tell it to move. You have to have that confidence in your faith, who you are, to say that. Okay? I know that I've had bad weather come my way, and I didn't want to work in that bad weather or be out there, and deflected it. Okay? It is very doable. Okay? By your word, you create. I said my words, I created what I wanted, and it moved.
And you had the belief.
And I had the belief behind it because I know it goes.
There
It
you
works.
go. There you
faith,
go.
right?
You have to have that. That's key.
Oh, yeah. So here's another question for you. Okay, how would you define your relationship with God? Who wants to take that one?
How would I define my relationship with God?
yeah.
I think my relationship with God is pretty good.
Yes.
I would say mine is pretty good as well.
There you go.
It improved over time. Over when I grew spiritually, my
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God grew as well.
What I love about when as far as saying my relationship with God is very good, I spoke to Mary and to Adolphina about it. We're talking about a subject while I'm driving, we're going somewhere, doing something, and all of a sudden, it will appear in the clouds to me. Our symbol from YTVY, okay? I'm on 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, not a cloud in the sky. It was a beautiful, glorious summer day, and it was early in the morning. And we were talking about something. It was a really heartfelt, not heated, but it was really in depth. And I'm coming down, I said, oh my God. And I took out my camera and I took a picture of it. And I sent it to her. I said, look what came out right in front of me in the sky. That was another one. I get mini rainbows for validation. Mini
Yeah.
rainbows. I sent you a
That's-
picture the
yes, you
other day
did.
I do
with the
too.
angels in the
Beautiful.
cloud. Angels all over the
Beautiful.
place.
Well,
Yeah.
YTVY is a sacred fire letter, which is a creation letter given to me, I don't know, 15 years ago perhaps now. Now, it's my understanding that Metatron puts up the fire letters. Metatron.
Who?
You know who, Metatron.
Metadrin.
Metatron, I agree with you.
Listen,
Metatron.
you're just going with the Doreen virtual flip the card.
No, no,
It's
no,
Metadrin.
no.
Well-
Metatron. We both agree, right?
I agree.
That's right.
Metatron sounds like he should
Yeah,
be
okay, this is
a
just so
transformer.
He is a transformer,
He's-
actually.
well,
he
he is,
transforms everything.
All right, but
Right.
it's Metadrin.
Okay, Tommy.
Metadrin.
You
Well,
see.
I wanted to tell you,
What?
that when
Go
you
ahead.
really do get a good relationship with God, for people who want to know why this is desirable, I'll give you some words. Blissful. Blissful. When you're in partnership with the I am presence, it's like heaven on earth, because now heaven is within you with the I am presence. The I am presence grows within you.
It fills you with the humility of God. All right.
And love.
And love
and
too.
love.
Think about it. Jesus was the CEO, but he was washing his apostles' feet. He's the
Right.
boss,
There you go.
and
Humility.
he did that because he was a humble man, a humble servant. If you think he had some gold chalices, the Holy Grail, guess what? You could be looking at forever. All right. He was a carpenter. All right, and he was a rabbi, and he went from town to town to town, telling the story of his Father's kingdom in heaven and how there's a place for you if you believe. All right? He made them question their faith because they were also hit with religious dogma back then. Follow as the teachings say. Okay? I mean, you look at the first books of the Bible, the first thing, it was a bloodthirsty God. The second one, he's not a bloodthirsty God. He's all love and all encompassing all, and all things in beauty. So, what changed? What changed? What changed was the perception.
We changed.
We changed. It's the perception of this.
That's-
Sacrifices, blood sacrifice. That is nothing. That's not of God.
It's not
Okay.
of love.
Yeah,
Love sacrifice.
Right. I don't even know that it was my perception that changed, but my experience changed, because my perception is not always correct, but my experience is always right. So I don't know, like I learn what I'm supposed to learn from that experience.
The thing is that as you grow in spirituality, whether you are seeking it or not seeking, as you grow in spirituality, the teachers would be put before you. All right, and as you need to know something else, that will come to you. It can come. You might be reading a book, and there's something that's going to resonate with you.
I like one of the things one time Linny and I were having a conversation, and she was talking about that each day she gets up and she asks God, okay, God, what do you want me to do today?
Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to see? And what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
That's my job for that day.
Yes. And I love that.
Because
I
sometimes
do a
I
little
will
different.
get a message to go to the hardware store, and it's like, what? Okay, I go. And then for whatever reason, I was sent to go there for a purpose, for a reason.
And usually, I'm sure you find somebody in distress who
Yes.
needed your light, who needed your love, who
That's
needed
what
to
happens to
talk to
me.
you. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always tell them, I said, put the people before me that you want me to.
Right.
That's what
It's
I tell them. I said,
the same thing.
put
It's
them
like,
on, put them on my path, and he
What do you-
does. I
what
go
do you
to
want me to
people's
do?
houses. I'm there to do one thing, and next thing I know, I'm there to help them. Because they're having this problem, they don't know how to deal with it. Who's going to a divorce? All these different things.
I believe that's part of our life purpose.
To be of service to
To
your
others.
fellow man.
I think
others.
that's the key.
That is the
right?
prime directive.
Yeah.
And to love God and love others as God loves you.
That's the prime one right there.
If you cannot do that, if you cannot love yourself because you are a creation of God, that's like getting a brand new Corvette. You know what I mean? You're just ultimate beauty. I don't care what you see in that mirror. It's what's in here. All right? You are the ultimate creation of God. So why would you think anything less? If you don't love yourself, you will never love anyone else. Love yourself first and grow.
You have to love and respect yourself
That's right.
in order to be able to be of service to others.
That's right.
Absolutely.
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 Because they will feel it. And it doesn't come from my head, it comes from my heart.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's like that. I lead with my heart, and it works for me, and I just go where I'm supposed to go.
You do what you got to do. You know,
I
you-
remember reading something that said, what if your life purpose was just to be a bright light in your community? Would that be okay with you if that was your life purpose? And I have to think about that. It's like, well, that's kind of what I do now.
Yeah.
I didn't always do that, but I do now. But not in a conscious way. It's just become part of my life, is what I do daily.
Right, and you know what I found? People who truly have learned universal law and who do have God inside and have reached those parameters, they're the ones who are joyful and smiling and going around, being happy for other people. I once had a man say to me in a supermarket, "Thank you for that smile. I really needed that today."
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and when you walk around, how many people are smiling?
My wife says to me all the time, "We're out
Not a
shopping."
whole lot.
Yeah.
And whatever we do, we go to a restaurant, we go to a diner. The waitress somehow picks me out and just starts talking to me. And before you know it, she's telling me the whole life story. That's
Right.
because I always say, put those in front of me that need my help. Okay? And they come out in droves. You know, it's funny wherever I go.
Right.
I'm walking around, even in Target tonight, I'm walking around, people smiling at me, and I'm saying, okay. Then either they saw the show, all right, or it's my perception they're receiving.
It's your energy,
It's
too,
my
that you're
energy,
putting
Yes.
forth there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you have a natural light.
Because if you are coming from your heart, when people feel that, they feel that there's an opening, that
And they're
you're
drawn to it.
approachable,
Right.
that you can be trusted.
Heart to heart.
Right.
And part of that, I mentioned it at several shows ago, but there was a point where God married the male and female parts of us that were split when we became male and female. And when he married them together, that's when everybody can learn to think with their heart, with their brain. And so that's manifesting even as we speak. I think you've done it for years and years, but not everybody does. But now it's going to affect everybody. So I think that's wonderful.
The way it's been up until recent times is that men are all from logic, women are all from the heart.
Right.
You ever notice that you tell a woman something and she dissects it 40 different ways? And then she, what do you mean by that?
Of course.
Right.
Take out the trash. What do you mean by that? I mean, really?
Oh, Tommy.
You know? What do you mean by that? I have a friend of mine who does that all the time. He always asks me. He laughs at what I said. And he says, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "What word didn't you understand? What was so tough in that you couldn't comprehend it?" You know? That's because those are people who are trying to troubleshoot everything you say. All right? And it's a ton of them. All right? They'd rather go see their little soothsayer somewhere, you know, or card flipper or whatever, you know, and they're happy with that, you know, because that's only going to give them a certain amount of stuff. But when they become metaphysical and they start moving towards the ascension and start moving up and start rising through the different dimensions and get up to where they're supposed to be, all right, that's when they truly find their path. You know, there's a lot of people who have wonderful things in this life. They've achieved all these things. When you die, bupkis. You go with love, that's it.
You can't take it.
You can't
Right.
take it. So you want to pat yourself on the back for being so
Successful.
so unsuccessful, you know, a criminal, whatever. You want to pat yourself on the back for that? That's this lifetime. You're going to do it again and again and again and again because your stiff-neckedness, your hardening of your heart will not allow you to comprehend anything we're saying.
I think to be a kind and generous
That's right.
and loving and caring person is a successful person.
Yes.
Because it's not about what you can acquire.
That's right.
It's about how you grow
That's
and
right.
then what that energy that you put out into the world. That's a success. To be a success as a human being and how we care for one another.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely. I do. Well, we've been talking about basically the role God plays in our life, and that was going to be my next question. Now, it's the funniest thing now for me with the role God has always played in my life is he points the way. And I've always told people, I've said, I always just followed the yellow brick road that God pointed to me at. And one way to know.
You followed the yellow brick road, but you wouldn't comprehend the ruby slippers when I told you 40,000 times.
Oh, the ruby
Oh
slippers.
my God!
For the past 7 or 8 years, Tommy has told me, you have the ruby slippers, put them together, just put them together and think. You always had them. You always had the power. Just do
She
it.
was wearing sneakers when she was going on the yellow brick road. Now she has the ruby slippers.
Well, you know, the thing is, I'll tell you a way you can tell if you're following God's will or not. If you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're banging your head against the wall and getting nowhere over and over and over again, it's because God don't want you to go there. Right?
That's the truth. You ever
That's
notice these
insanity.
people? Because I meet the same kind of men all the time. All of them. They're just terrible. They're useless. Right? Where are you meeting these guys? At the bar. Okay? Where do you go all the time? To the bar. Okay? What are you accomplishing? What are you accomplishing? Drawing more of the same.
Right.
Okay? Like energy, like thought patterns will draw like right back.
Well, you know, meeting men, it would be okay, you know, if I met somebody in a bar. But the thing is, you know, to just go there to meet men is like, what are you going to attract? An alcoholic? You know, do they go there every day? You know what I mean? Or is this an occasional stop for a social outing? You know what I mean? So these are things you have to
Just have
consider.
buffalo wings at the bar. Is that what it is? Watch the game.
See,
Rub-
that's,
rub
that-
elbows
that's
with
an
rub
occasional
elbows-
outing.
Elbows with a sensual woman.
See, now that would be when somebody goes out just to have fun, right? But not somebody. I mean, I went out to have a bite to eat, and I was sitting at a bar, and I was having a glass of wine. And while I'm doing this fella came in, and he was an older guy. I don't know, maybe 60, 65 or whatever. Anyway,
He was an older guy, 60, 65. What the heck are we? He was an older guy? I
honey.
didn't classify myself as
I'm
that.
getting younger. But anyway,
Wow.
he downed
Need
this
this water
wine.
put out these flames.
Oh, Tommy.
Wow.
He downed 3 glasses of wine before I finished half a glass of wine. I mean, that is not
He's
someone.
bigger than you and he's thirsty.
No. He went, "Goop," you know, "Goop." You know what I mean? I was
So
like,
did you start a
okay.
conversation or what?
I don't know. I just thought to
okay.
myself, well, you know what? That's not the type of man that I want to
No.
meet to date. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Right?
Because you get out drink, you'll be wasting all your wine.
No, because
Okay.
he would be an alcoholic.
Right, that too.
Oh,
What else you-
well, there was another question that I had. We've actually kind of touched on it. I
About
think you brought it up.
co-creating? Yeah.
We were talking about have your thoughts and feelings changed over the years,
Mm-hmm.
you know, about God.
No, mine have always been the same.
And how about you, Tommy?
What?
Have they changed over the years?
As I've grown spiritually and as I've known that organized stuff is not the way to go, and my growth preceded me as far as that's concerned, and as I had several prolific moments where God's intervention was definitely right there. That's how I knew
Oh,
that
yeah.
I didn't need that other stuff. I had that stuff. You know, and I grew from there.
Well, I know for myself, when I was a kid, I mean, you don't think about these things unless you're raised with it, like Mary was. But I mean, like I went to church and so forth, but even so, when you're not in church, you don't think about it much when you're a kid. But you know what? I mean, look, when you think about Jesus was teaching in the temples when he was, what, 12 or something? 10
Yeah,
or 12,
right.
And so then you grow into spiritual maturity. You know what I mean?
Right,
Have
and
your
that's how
thought-
I feel that I've changed, because I've gotten deeper into my spirituality, so the way that I view God or experience God, that's changed because I've grown and become more aware
Right.
that God is in me and that I co-create
That
with God.
expression of love that you
Because
give.
I was taught that, you know, you don't God is in charge and God tells you what to do. You don't co-create with God. He's the, you know, the end all and the be all, and you know, and that, you know, you just listen. I listen now.
You know, that's how they used to get us back then when we were little, back in the innocent days of the 50s and 60s. You know, if you don't do, God is watching.
Oh,
And
You know?
that's true, though.
You're
Created
gonna,
fear.
you're gonna go straight down there with the guy with the pitchfork.
Right,
You know?
right.
I mean, that there was like scared the hell out of a kid back then when they didn't have all these videos and things to
They
make you
And
acclimatize
it
to
scares me as an adult to hear that someone is a God-fearing person, you know, on like a dating site. I've gotten messages that says, "Oh, I'm God-fearing," and I said, "Gee, I really feel bad for you because I have a loving God. I've chosen a loving God,
And I
and
don't
my
fear
God
him."
doesn't want me to fear him. He wants me to love him."
Right.
So that's that's how I view it, and it's like I don't fear God. I think I used to because that's what I was taught.
Yeah. Look, 'cause
Thank God I
that's what-
recovered.
well, that's there you go. That's what we were taught. You know, I used to call
What-
it.
what
I used
else
to
were
call-
we gonna
this-
know
this
but we
is-
were
This is
taught?
one of the reasons why I could not stand the regiment of Sundays. Why? Because when you did go to church or wherever you went, it was like, I call it church calisthenics. Stand, kneel, do this, that, nod your head, do the blessings, do this. Why? Why are you looking down, nodding your head when God's up here?
Right.
God's supreme. He's not down there in the dirt. All right? Who came up with that one? You know who lives down there.
Well, here's another question. So, how are you using your co-creative powers to serve? Because we really, at this point in time in our ascension process, we need to be critically aware of what we're choosing, what we're going to design, and what we're going to manifest, who we will be for the rest of our lives. For we are truly becoming new creatures as we are evolving into superhumans, and that was God's plan all along. And so he is actually manifesting that for all of us. And so, we really got to give this conscious thought, because otherwise, if you don't think about it, you're creating by default. And then where does that take you?
When you become to to this stature that we're at now, you have to be very, very careful with your thought patterns, because inadvertently you will create
Right.
things. And those things will affect you. I know we go through this all the time.
Yes.
But
It's a
Yeah,
learning
yeah,
create
process.
negatively or positively.
Right.
You're still going to
Because
you're
that's
still going to
right.
create.
that's right. And like I had said before in the last show, that your mind comes up with at least 150,000 thoughts a day. And if you can slow that process down to maybe half that, or even less than that through meditation, I strongly urge you to learn meditation and to start doing that, because that connects you to God. That opens up your crown chakra to receive God. Why would you not? All right? Yoga is the biggest rage. So why don't you learn something and go do it? All right? Do something that's good for your body, not only on the outside, but on the inside.
We have to answer that question, though. Like Linny was telling us how she serves. Every day she asks God what she wants, she wants her to do. Now, I know, like, for instance, the way I serve is the books I've written, and I know I have a contract with God to write more when he gives when the data comes in. And, of course, lectures, of course, this TV show, and then just, general dropping seeds wherever I go, and being happy and being kind to people. Now I think probably we can all say something similar.
Absolutely.
What would you say, Mary?
Well, every day. This is my life. I mean, I write the angel columns and I write the horoscope column. Everything that I do, I'm doing in order to help other people and to help them understand better what they do.
Being in service to your fellow man.
Exactly. And
That's what you
that's
do.
what my purpose is on a daily basis. I wake up every morning and that's,
I try to pay it forward. That's what I do.
yep.
I try to pay it forward. I help people I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I help them. All right? I will hold the door. I saw something that was absolutely despicable. There's an old man with a walker walking towards the local shopping center. And these young kids today, they grow up with absolutely no respect for anybody older than them. He came over, he's trying to reach for the door. They came, pulled the door, ran past him, and let the door shut. You know, and I seen that, and it just, in other cultures, aged people are revered.
Very
Here-
true.
Here, we have lost that moral compass. We have lost that moral compass because of that stupid thing over there that's a TV set and fills your head with subversive information. Okay? And if you think there's no subliminal messages in what you watch, just look at the way your kids grow up and the way their thought patterns are. See it. Wake up. You're being poisoned by subversion.
You know, that's true. And I was going to say myself, those exact words, not the subversion, but you want to know God, I'll tell you how you're going to do it. You got to simplify your life. You got to slow it down. You have to turn off the TV. You would be surprised how much time you have when you don't have on the TV. Turn off the computers, shut your cell phones off, and make that daily appointment with God to meditate, to pray, and you can ask God for the ability to hear Him, because that's what it is. Prayer is praying to God. Meditation is listening to God. And even if you don't hear words, it's kind of like a mind meld.
You'll see pictures sometimes
Yeah.
in your head.
Yes, right.
You know,
Or the
things you don't
feelings that you
understand.
have.
Sometimes the things you don't understand and you don't recognize the faces, but these are relevant things in your life. When you listen to God and you hear Him, you might not hear Him in an audible voice,
Right.
but you will, it's like telepathy. You will receive the message,
Right.
okay? I used to think years ago that when I was hearing it, that I was hearing my own thoughts.
Yeah.
When you learn that that's not your own thoughts,
Right.
and there's information that you couldn't possibly know, okay?
Right.
That's God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I've learned not to question that anymore, whatever it is. You know, just to say, okay, okay.
And you know, I have another key for you. One of the keys that I've learned to stop that mind chatter with negative things is to say, my mind, I am silent. My mind is silent. Because otherwise, you know, it's just too much for your mind, because it's constantly thinking, and sometimes not things you want to think about. So, you know, you could say that, obviously, and that helps because remember, again, you're using the I am. So here's what we do. You go out and you create a beautiful life for yourself, for everyone around you, and just be in joy, because that'll bring you joy. Okay, so we can together create a beautiful world, right?
Absolutely.
3 minutes. All right.
Yeah. So, you know, they're my thoughts on this stuff. We must all.
For me, it's in my world, these things don't exist. Therefore, they don't affect me. And that's how I look at things. In my world, it is as I want it. Okay, and that's it. In my world, I am sovereign. I make the decisions, I call the shots. In my world. And none of these things that you see going on, these disgusting things in the paper and everything else, right, affect me. Because that's somebody else's world. That's somebody else's matrix. That's somebody else's false holograms. And the sheep, all right, those are the unawakened, the sheep, they're the ones that fall into that trap all the time. They need to wake up.
Yeah, we need to be solution driven instead of just going on and on, beating the same old dead horse about all the challenges in the world and so forth. We need to be solution driven and speak out of existence what isn't good and speak into existence what is good. This is your key, universal law.
As
And that's
simple
why I
as
listen
that.
to the voice.
Okay, anyway, we have 2
We have-
minutes, so let's wrap it up. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Antonio's Bookstore in Tottenville, for our food tonight. and Aardvark Pest Control and Great Kills. I also like to thank our studio audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
We had this many.
Yeah.
Okay. And our man Brian in the booth, where is he? Okay. And everybody out there in television land that allows us to come and bring our show to you into your living rooms. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something. And I hope you start that path. All right?
Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be part of this wonderful show. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
You've been
Thank
lovely.
you, guys.
It's wonderful to have both
It was
of
great.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and especially on such an interesting topic. I think
Yes.
that we've talked about things that most people don't know about
That's true.
Or think about.
or think about.
Or talk
Right.
about.
Right.
So maybe it'll open their minds,
Brought it to the
their
forefront.
eyes, and give this some serious thoughts, because that's what we want to do. We want to create a whole new world.
Yes. Okay, we're going to end it up. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
See you next time.
Good night.